Good morning everyone. Welcome to Bioworld. Today's topic is life processes part 2. In the previous session, we have discussed the process of nutrition. The food materials after the process of digestion get assimilated into the cells. There they provide energy. This is done by respiration. So how can we define respiration? Respiration is a process by which a living being utilizes the food to derive energy. Different organisms do this in different ways. Higher organisms like human uses oxygen for the complete breakdown of glucose into carbon dioxide, water and energy. So in human, glucose gets converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy in the presence of oxygen. This reaction takes place in the presence of oxygen. So we can call it as aerobic respiration. But in some other organisms like yeast, this glucose gets converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy in the absence of oxygen. But in the case of yeast, glucose gets converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy in the absence of oxygen. So we can call it as an anaerobic respiration. In both the cases, the first step in this internal respiration is the same. What is that first step? Let us see. This glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. 6-carbon molecule. This glucose is converted into a 3-carbon pyruvate. In both the cases, this glucose gets converted into a 3-carbon pyruvate. This pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. And then we can see different pathways. In the case of human, in the presence of oxygen, this 3-carbon pyruvate gets converted into carbon dioxide, water plus energy. Then what happens to this energy? This released energy gets stored in the mitochondria. Mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is a circular cell organelle with many internal foldings. The fluid inside the mitochondria contains ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate, and inorganic phosphates and many other minerals. This energy is utilized in the linkage of ADP and phosphate. ADP linked with inorganic phosphate to form ATP molecule. Any part of our body needs energy. This ATP releases the energy in the site of energy need. One molecule of ATP produces 30.5 kilojoule of energy. One molecule of ATP releases 30.5 kilojoule. So per molecule, that is per molecule, 30.5 kilojoules of energy. Then where is this energy stored? In the linkage, in the bond between adenosine diphosphate and inorganic phosphate. Due to the breakage of this link, lot of energy, that is 30.5 kilojoules of energy is released into the system. So ATP is called the energy currency of the cell. You might have noticed painful muscle cramps during or after vigorous exercise. Why? It is due to the deposition of lactic acid in the muscle cells. During vigorous exercise, the oxygen in the muscle cells get used up. So, in the absence of oxygen, this 3-carbon pyruvate gets converted into lactic acid and energy. In the absence of oxygen in the muscle cells, the deposition of this lactic acid causes cramps. Then the third case, that is in the yeast, in the absence of oxygen, this 3-carbon pyruvate is converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. This reaction takes place in fermentation. As you know, we use yeast for fermenting the food items like bread, naan, pizza, etc. Look here. So these are the 3 pathways for the conversion of glucose. Is it clear? Organisms, they perform aerobic respiration, need to ensure the sufficient intake of oxygen into the system. Human being performs aerobic respiration. In human being, air is taken into the system through the nostrils. Nostrils are the outer opening of the nasal passage. There are 2 nasal passages. Nasal passage has mucus coating and fine hairs inside. Both these fine hairs and mucus coating filter the dust particle in the inhaled air. Then this nasal passage, see here, this is the nostril, and this nasal passage continues down into an area called pharynx. This area is pharynx. Pharynx is the common space for both the digestive system and respiratory system. Digestive system here, mouth or buccal cavity continues down into pharynx, and here the nasal passage also continues down into pharynx. Pharynx continues down into larynx. This area is called larynx. Larynx is also called voice box. Why it is called voice box? This larynx contains many elastic cartilaginous cord inside. They are responsible for the vocal tone in our speech. So this larynx is also called the voice box. This larynx continues down into trachea. Trachea has many C-shaped cartilaginous rings on the wall. What for? These cartilaginous rings prevent the collapse of trachea. Then this trachea continues down into bronchus. Bronchus. Here you can see 2 bronchi. Bronchus is the singular and bronchi is the plural. Each bronchus divide into branches and sub-branches inside the lungs. These branches are called bronchiole. At the end of the bronchiole, we can see an air sac. This air sac is called alveolus. Alveolus is the singular and alveoli is the plural. This alveolus has very thin membranous outer covering. Very thin membranous outer covering. Usually it is 1 cell thick. That helps in the process of diffusion of gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen. The blood capillaries open in the region of the outer covering or outer membranous covering. There, oxygen mixes with the blood and carbon dioxide exits from the blood. If we magnify this area of an alveolus, we can see these structures. This red colored capillaries, they carry oxygenated blood away from the alveoli, and this black colored capillaries, they carry deoxygenated blood towards the alveoli for the process of purification. Is it clear? Next is mechanism of breathing. The breathing mechanism of lungs is controlled by diaphragm and ribs. What is diaphragm? Look here, diaphragm is a membrane we can see just below the lungs that separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. And the ribs are slender, curved bones we can see in the thoracic region. What is the function of the ribs? These ribs protect the thoracic cavity. These ribs are connected at the back to our spine and in the front to the sternum. What is a sternum? This is the sternum. Sternum is a flat bone located in front of our thoracic cavity. When we breathe in, we lift our ribs and flatten our diaphragm. Look here, this diaphragm is a dome-shaped structure. But while we breathe in, we flatten the diaphragm. As a result, the thoracic cavity gets larger and the pressure there drops down. And as a result, air is sucked into the lungs and into the alveoli. There, the exchange of gases takes place. Inhaled air increases the concentration of oxygen in the alveolus. As a result, the oxygen diffuses into the blood capillaries. But the blood coming from the cell has more concentration of carbon dioxide than the inhaled air. So the carbon dioxide from the blood diffuses into the inhaled air. Now the carbon dioxide rich air expels out of our system during the process of exhalation. What is inhalation and exhalation? Inhalation is the process of taking in air rich in oxygen, and exhalation is the process of giving out air rich in carbon dioxide. One breath comprises of an inhalation and an exhalation. Then what is the breathing rate? The number of time a person breathes in 1 minute per minute is called his breathing rate. During the process of exhalation, the lungs never expel the entire volume of air inside. The lungs always have a residual volume, so that there is sufficient time for oxygen to be absorbed and carbon dioxide to be expelled. But when the body size of the animal is large, the diffusion pressure alone cannot take up the function of the delivery of oxygen in different parts of the body. There, the respiratory pigments assist in the process. Which is the respiratory pigment in human being? Hemoglobin. This hemoglobin has greater affinity towards oxygen. So this oxygen dissolves in the pigment hemoglobin and form oxyhemoglobin and get transported to different parts of the body. Carbon dioxide is much soluble in water than oxygen. So the carbon dioxide is transported in dissolved form. The animals, they live in water. They are called aquatic organisms. They use the dissolved oxygen in the water. The amount of oxygen dissolved in water is much lesser when compared to the oxygen in the air. So that the breathing rate in the aquatic organisms are much higher than the terrestrial organisms. Now let us see respiration in plants. We have seen that plants exchange gases through stomata, and they have large intercellular spaces in the mesophyll tissue that ensure that all the cells are in contact with air. Here oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged through the process of diffusion. In plants at night, when there is no photosynthesis, the exchange of gas is only the elimination of carbon dioxide. But during daytime, the carbon dioxide produced due to respiration is used up for the process of photosynthesis. So there is no elimination of carbon dioxide, but only the elimination of oxygen takes place during the daytime. Hope it is clear for everyone. Bye till we meet with the next video. If you have any suggestion, please drop a comment in the comment section below. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe.